and Soul Podcast. Today I'm joined by Coach Lynch from Brownsburg High School. He is the varsity head coach for the boys basketball, and I'm also joined with Kenny. He's back with us again. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me tonight.
You ready to talk a little bit about basketball?
Oh, an hour and a half of hoops? Absolutely.
College basketball, we're going to cover it all. College, high school, middle school, a little bit of professional basketball. So stay tuned for that. We also have some great stories from him as well. Kenny, you ready for tonight?
Yes.
You ready?
Definitely am.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to shout out their Instagram real quick and their Twitter. So go follow them on Instagram at Brownsburg Athletics. So if you guys want to see their content and what they're doing. If you guys want to go watch them,
check out the schedule. Basketball's coming up, sports coming up. Check out the schedule.
Most definitely.
All that schools.
Most definitely. And if you guys want to go see them on Twitter, go check them out. Go check the boys basketball out at BHS Dogs B Hoops, and the girls are G Hoops instead of B Hoops. So before we start the podcast, let's pray over the podcast like we do before every podcast. Lord, we pray over this podcast. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to be able to impact people's lives. We pray for all the persecuted Christians around the world. We pray for Coach Lynch's family. We pray for Kenny's family, my family. We pray for Brian's family. We also pray for Leo's family, who's not here. Continue to let us strive for greatness on the podcast, and thank you for the opportunity we've been blessed with. In your name we pray. Amen. All right, so let's open it up. How long have you been coaching for?
This will be year 31. So last year was 30 years. Started at Manchester College, played there, and when my coach left, they hired Steve Alford.
Okay.
Played at IU, and had a great opportunity to stay there and coach a couple years with him. And coached in college, I think, 16 years, and then this is year 17 in high school, year 10 at Brownsburg.
Okay. All right. Where'd you coach before high school basketball? Where'd you say?
I was at Mount Vernon.
Mount Vernon, okay.
Over in Fortville, yep.
Okay.
The McCordsville area. I had a great experience there, and just some wonderful people to work with over there. And then Dr. Snap, who was a Ball State grad. My last college job was at Ball State, and knowing Mr. Snap or Dr. Snap through the Ball State connections led me over to Brownsburg.
All right. So, how do you think? Let's get into this season, because the season hasn't kicked. I mean, it's kicked off. You guys played a little bit of summer ball, right?
Yep.
Played a little bit of summer ball. That was what, June through July.
Yep. The month of June.
Yep. So, how do you think you're going to perform this year? Where do you see your team this year?
We're excited. We had graduated when Pierce Thomas graduated. We had a huge senior class last year. A lot of new faces in the lineup. We were able to go 15-9, and a lot of guys cut their varsity teeth. And so we returned quite a big junior class. We've got 3 really good seniors, Laj Diallo and Carson Knox, and Bishop Bambo leading the way for us, and then a really big junior class with Cannon Catchings, who's got a couple college offers, and just a real good supporting cast in the junior class. A couple sophomores will get varsity jerseys this year, but we had a good summer, a lot of good experiences. A lot of guys got to play because of injuries and different things. So again, you come out of June excited about where we're at and getting ready to kind of gear it back up in this fall for workouts.
So you're excited about that, aren't you?
Every year you're excited.
Yeah.
Every year you're excited.
Because it's a new start, and there's always an opportunity going into every season, and you have to go in with a winning mindset and hey, we can. You set a goal, and I like to say my goal every year is to finish at the very top, like even in middle school, conference, or county. Those are the 2 goals that I have every year. But for you, it would be state. For high school, it is state, but no, I mean, I think you guys will have a very exciting season this year, especially you said Cannon, who's got a couple offers, and then your senior class, you guys do have a very strong junior class.
Yep.
Definitely.
Great.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
So, like in addition, what other goals do you have besides just winning that championship, winning that sectional, whatever you got for your team?
That's a great question. Generally, we go through, there's a lot of things that we'll go through in terms of just kind of trying to grow the kids in a lot of ways. So we'll meet with them about their individual goals and what they're trying to accomplish individually, and then what we want to accomplish collectively as a group, and how we can do that all together. And I think we've, first and foremost, we've had some wonderful kids to work with, but to see them trying to achieve their individual goals while putting forth a great effort for team success. And, I always feel like those are great life experiences. At the end of the day, you'd really like to win, but what you want to see them do is when they leave, that they adjust, they go on, they're productive citizens, great husbands and fathers and stuff like that, and getting my first high school guys, they're starting to get married and have kids and stuff, and that's really neat to go to some of these events and see their kids and stuff and see how they're doing as young men. And so there's a lot of it goes into it, but more than anything, probably just getting the kids to talk to each other and really bond on a common goal.
Yeah. Making it more about just basketball, I guess. You know what I mean?
Right.
Life. They're going into a huge transaction. From high school to college. Now, mind asking that, how is the transition from high school and college? Your coach both, jumping up and down. How is that?
I've been very fortunate to work at some really neat places. Obviously, Manchester is where I went to school, and then started coaching and just learning a lot about recruiting. I met so many people in my early coaching career through Coach Alford's contacts.
Some big names, pretty much.
Yeah, well, it just doesn't matter if they're big names or not. Just some people that have really opened some doors for me, and some great relationships along the way. And then going to Missouri State, it was Southwest Missouri when I was there, and just seeing the highs and lows of it. Like being so close to being in the tournament and playing in the NIT, and then having a really hard year and knowing feeling really good about it, and then having that really hard year when everybody's on you and the kids aren't happy and the boosters aren't happy, and feeling what college, that college pressure is like, and then kind of culminating with going to the Sweet 16 before Coach Alford went to Iowa. It was just a really, really neat experience.
Yeah, that's awesome.
This is kind of going to change it up, but what do you look for in your players, like in your high school players, academically first, because they're student athletes, and what do you look for on the court? What do you see? What do you like to see in your players?
That's a great question, and I think you'll get a bunch of different responses from coaches that are here. We just had our head coaches retreat, which Brownsburg does a great job helping us. We get all of our head coaches together. We have meetings. We talk. We share, our successes. We share some of our frustrations. But we had a guest speaker come in, and we put all the things on the board that we think are important. And he called them scissors. We're supposed to go through with 3 scissors and cut it out. And so for mine, in some way, shape, or form, this has been me for a long time. But my first word was love, that you have to love the game. I've always said it's a little bit of conditional love. You have to love the game or love the team for me to love you. You have to work, okay? Nothing is ever achieved without work. And then the separator, which I always tell the guys, I've said it before, but this really helped me clarify it, was like if we're in class, everybody can get an A, right? Everybody, but when you're playing somebody on Friday night, there's only one team that's going to win. So my third word was fight. You got to fight for it. You got to love it. You got to work at it, and you have to fight for it. So that's what generally we talk to the guys about. Those are the guys that end up rising to the top or finding success in our program. I think they're guys that love it enough when it's hard, they keep doing it. They know that work is part of the process, and that at the end of the day, when you have to compete, you're fighting for each other. You're fighting to get what you want out of the competition, and I think fighters will embrace that competitive side of it. And so I think that's how I'd like to answer your question, which is a great question.
Adding on to that, in practice, how do you run your practices? Are they intense, or does it vary on the day, or if you have a game before that?
That's a great question. So our fall workouts are a lot of skill development, and we're always trying to work on conditioning and building the body up for the season. So a lot of conditioning and weightlifting. Coach Neese does a great job at the high school for us. We've got a wonderful weight facility that the guys have access to, and then we'll do supplementary things before we get to the gym. In the gym, in the fall, we spend a lot of time on, when we have those individual things like, whether it's shooting or ball handling, or, developing the skills that our guys talk about in terms of what their goals would be. And then during the season, just a typical day would be they get out of class, they come in, we watch about 20-25 minutes of film, depending where we're at. We're either watching us and things that we need to do to get better, or we're watching an opponent and what we're getting ready to see in terms of competition, what we might have to guard, or what we might have to try and go against offensively. And then our practice is going to be an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes of just everything you would think involves basketball: skill work, offense, defense, situational things. I think we've gotten a lot better working at situations and putting guys in game-like situations where when it happens in the game, they've seen it before, they have some confidence about different things that might happen in late game situations.
Okay. You said you coached with Steve Alford, correct?
Yep.
How was that?
It was great. Coach is one of the most intense people I've ever met. You can see why he had the success he had. He's very disciplined. He's very focused. I worked with him early in his coaching career. So, Coach Knight was still at IU. We had the opportunity. Those guys were great rivals, but I thought there was so much respect between the Indiana-Purdue people at the time, between Coach Knight and Coach Katie. And so getting to know all those people, whether it was a Bruce Weber or Jay Price or people associated with Purdue or all the people associated with IU, those were really neat things. At the time, Coach Alford had played at Dallas in the NBA, and his professional coach was John McLeod, who spent a period of about 4, 5, 6 years at Notre Dame. So you had Bob Knight, Gene Katie, and John McLeod at Indiana, Purdue, and Notre Dame, which was, for me at the time when I was 26, 27 years old, was unbelievable.
That's really cool. That's a great story that you have right there. Now, you said you went to the Sweet 16, correct?
Right.
How was that? That is not a lot of. We had Justin Roberts on, and I don't say this very often, but we had him on. He played Gonzaga. And this is one of the things, like, how many people can say they went to the Sweet 16, or how many people can say they played Gonzaga in the tournament?
Yeah.
How is that, man? Tell me.
That was one of the, that's one you pull out every now and then. And what's neat about Facebook is every year the guys will post something about, there was little clips and stuff like that. And so that comes up every March that we were one of the teams. But we played in the Missouri Valley Championship in my coaching time at Southwest Missouri State 5 times and did not win any of those championships. The year we got in as an at-large, and we got beat in the semifinals by Creighton. And so, we'd had disappointment. We sat there in those chairs and didn't get in 96. And we're sitting there, and I remember Kevin Alt was Mr. Basketball here in Indiana, jumping out of his chair. Coach Alford's son, Corey, who was real little at the time, he's the head coach at Huntington University now, just the celebration that we were in the tournament. Yeah. And that was just unbelievable. And so then you get the whole process of you're flying to Charlotte. We're going to play Wisconsin. And Dick Bennett at the time was the head coach, and his son Tony was his assistant, I'm pretty sure. And so we get down there, and it's just a really, really tough game, low scoring. I think we end up winning 43-32. So it was just a grinder of a game, typical Wisconsin basketball
Hard
at the time.
nose.
Yes, just really rough. And to win that game and get a win under our belt, Charlie Spoonhour had been the coach, and another just great coach in the history of college basketball. Had been the head coach at Southwest Missouri State. So Charlie had won a couple times, won a game in the tournament, but nobody had ever won 2. So we were playing Tennessee, who had won the SEC East, and they had a couple pros, and we were just very fortunate. I think they took us lightly. I remember they were kind of punking us a little bit in warm-ups, and our guys really responded. We're up 10 at halftime and end up winning by like 27.
And that's a feel good.
It was unbelievable. And so we got to go to New Jersey and play Duke in the Sweet 16. It was unbelievable.
And to knock a big dog out like that, like a Tennessee, and even, like, as I said, Justin Roberts, who can say they played Duke in the Sweet 16? Not very many people can say that.
Yeah. It was unbelievable.
Do you think that impacted your coaching career? Did it not? Did you?
It's an experience. I'm grateful to the guys, the players that did all the work, to Coach Alford for giving me the opportunity. There's a lot of people when you go through that we talk about it at reunions, like everything fell in line. We got so lucky to get in that large bid. We played really well in a hard game against Wisconsin, and we're fortunate to win. And then the Tennessee game was just, You know, you'll hear people say it was just a magical game for us to beat somebody like that by 20-some points. It was crazy.
It was what do they call it? A miracle? What do they call it? They call it in college the I'm lost.
The Cinderella.
Yeah, it's a Cinderella story type of run.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that was one of the cool things. CBS put Kevin Alt with the glass slipper, and he said, "Does this shoe fit?" So they played up the Cinderella thing big time that year for us. Going to the Sweet 16.
No, that's super cool. Who was on the Duke team that you guys?
People that don't know. Yeah, who
that was a loaded team. They were 38-1. They might have lost at the beginning of the season in the Alaska shootout, but they had Elton Brand, Trajan Langdon. They had 3, I think, first-round draft choices. Wow. I'm trying to think who all they. Elton Brand was the big one, and then Langdon. We screwed up a switch with 10 seconds left, and Langdon hit a 3 at the buzzer. We were down 9 at halftime. Could have been down 6. And I think Coach K gave him a pretty good pep talk. We were down about 20 early in the second half, and they came out.
They did the Duke. They turned into Duke.
And then they lost. They lost in the national championship. I think it was one of the best teams Duke's ever had, and they lost in the championship game to UConn that year.
Okay. Wow, that's a cool story, isn't it, Kenny?
Yeah.
That's a super dope story.
So transitioning back to high school ball, getting your guys preparated and all that. I just want to know some of the things that you have to deal with, some of the struggles like playing time. How do you manage players' time, getting ready for the season? I mean, you got, like you said, you got a bright cast of players in front of you. How do you prepare for that? Manage your time and all that.
I think it's helped being a sports parent myself, and I remember, again, the people you meet and the things you hear and the experiences you have. But they said, because you're a coach, you'll be a better parent. Because you're a parent, you'll be a better coach. And I think the last 10 or 15 years has really helped me be more empathetic to parents. It's hard, it's hard. It's hard being a parent, and you put a lot of time and money and your emotion into your child. But we've been very, very fortunate at Brownsburg and Mount Vernon to work with some great people. And there's always disappointments there. And again, we go back to talking about life lessons and just being really honest about, when you have those disappointments and not letting that get in the way of working towards your goals. So we go back and remind them about what the goal is and if you're struggling to achieve your individual goal, then what do you maybe you jump in and push our collective goal. Mm-hmm. The kids, we talk about kids being immature, but I have to give our Brownsburg athletes a lot of credit for handling their adversity very well. They're willing to do things with and for each other, and honestly, when you say that, there's the daily grind. And there's the ups and downs of a season, and guys might be playing well. We played really well in January last year, weren't playing as well at the end, and I think you want to play your best basketball at the end.
Very end.
You hate to celebrate a January, but we had a great January. Right. So at the end of the year, you find things that high for that. I think the thing I've learned probably over 30 years is you celebrate it when it happens. Yeah. Don't wait to celebrate it. Celebrate it when it happens. And so I think that experience, and again, you have to give the kids a lot of credit. They worked through things. I think we had some kids that were disappointed, but again, they worked through it, and I'm really proud of
they finished the season.
They don't, and then they don't hold on to it when it's done. So whether that's our influence as the coaches, I think their parents deserve a ton of credit for raising kids that understand that, but I just have to give the kids of Brownsburg a ton of credit. We don't have to fight a lot of the battles that you hear about, and so for that I consider myself very lucky to be the coach of Brownsburg.
Yeah, shout out to all the players that
going to Brownsburg. Going back to that Duke team, you said you were trying to remember Shane Battier and Corey Maggette, right?
Yep.
Man,
Chris Carrawell.
Wow.
You start breaking those names up.
They were loaded. Awesome. They were loaded.
It was an unbelievable team. When you go through scouting reports, Wisconsin had 3 guys. Tennessee had a loaded team. I'd like to remember those guys' names too, but they had for sure a first-round draft choice. But the whole Duke roster, like when you did the scouting report, it was like potential pro. He was a parade All-American. He played at McDonald's All-Star game. It was like they were all, like everybody that played was so good. And they had seniors and they had sophomores, and it was a great group.
And Shane Battier was a very good role player in the NBA for a long time. And he was an all-star caliber, wasn't he? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, he was like an all defensive league player. Yeah. He was with Miami for a long time. I want to say he had like a 12 or 13 year NBA career.
He's had a stretch in Memphis for a little bit as well. But going back to high school basketball.
Yep.
What type of system do you run? Well, don't give your keys away because we might have other high school coaches watching this.
No, that's fine.
But don't give your system away. But like, what do you like to run in game?
We are primarily known as a defensive program. You know, my early job working in college was I did a lot of the scouting reports. So
okay.
I'm watching a lot of film, and not to name drop, but like. We're in the Missouri Valley, so you had Dana Altman, who was at Creighton. He's at Oregon now. Mark Turgeon was at Wichita State. He just retired or resigned at Maryland. Royce Waltman, who had been a longtime assistant at IU, was at Indiana State. Bruce Weber, who had been assistant at Purdue forever, was at Southern Illinois. Eldon Miller, who had been the coach at Ohio State, was the coach at Northern Iowa. So for a 26, 27-year-old guy to sit down and watch film every day, I'm watching some of the premier coaches in their early coaching career in the Missouri Valley.
And who turn out to be some of the greatest college coaches.
Yeah, they're still coaching. Some of the guys are still coaching at the big time schools now. So when you go through that, Greg McDermott was at Northern Iowa. So now he's at Creighton. So it was just an unbelievable experience. So like you're watching their teams and trying to figure out how you're going to defend them and stop them, and you know, we're developing our identity through defense, and then obviously Coach Alford's running the offense. So when I started at Mount Vernon, you know, we did a ton of defense, and I think I've evolved a lot as an offensive coach. You know, we had without the shot clock, you know, I thought it was one of the greatest games last year, not just because we won, but it was just played so hard, our game with Carmel, and they've got a great group, and I really respect what Coach Osborne does. And it was just so hard fought, and every possession was just grinding and physical, and it was just such a fight. It's a great high school game.
You guys won that on a buzzer beater, didn't you?
And so
who hit that? I remember watching that on.
Cannon tipped it, and Drew Thompson hit a shot at the buzzer, but the score was 34-31. And it was just, you know, it's not always real eye-appealing, but it was just such a great basketball game. So, you know, sometimes I think, you know, people don't always appreciate that. We did, you know, had a couple games where, probably 4 games we scored in the 70s last year, and that was great. So, again, we'd like to play up-tempo. You like to go, but sometimes, you know, because... And it's not that nobody holds the ball. I think with the misconception with offensive basketball, and we're really just going off on a tangent here, but, you know, when you play teams that are really disciplined and they know they got to get a great shot, then they just keep running offense until they get the shot. It's not like they're holding the ball or stalling. It's, you know, we're going to get the best shot we can get, and if the defense doesn't give, then that shot doesn't always materialize as fast.
We're going to keep trying, though.
So do you like the shot clock?
That's right.
I would welcome the shot clock. I think there's a lot of guys like it. For me, it'd be great because there's we're going to defend for 30 seconds or 35 seconds or whatever 40 seconds, whatever they decide. But at some point in time, the possession's got to come down to an end. And if we can rebound, then the possession's over.
And so, and the clock doesn't reset or anything like that.
Yeah. So again, that's going to happen at some point in time. I think, you know, you'll see high school work through that. I think you could see some bad basketball, but in the end, I think it would make it a little more up tempo because of that whole, you know, again, like just running offense until you get the shot you want is a big philosophy of a lot of coaches. You know, don't take a bad shot, right? Don't turn it over. Don't take a bad shot.
So you can get caught on one end for forever, like you said, and it's not appealing.
Yep.
But so now asking then, so what type of players would you like to see in your lineup? What type of players, or what type of players do you look?
I coach the tall guys really well. So
Okay.
so no, you know what? And I say that. I love the kids that are willing to fight for their team.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's a very open-ended thing. But you know, when you go back to those key words, or you talked about like our culture, and I think that's a really overused term, but it's like
Right.
what holds your program together, and it gets kids that love the game, guys that don't mind getting in the gym working, and when it comes time to it, you fight like brothers, but at the end of the day, you walk off and you hug, and you go to the locker room and you laugh, and probably the best thing is when they go to the locker room and they can mimic or make fun of me.
Yeah.
Then you know, like, hey, they're hearing you, but they're able to make fun and have a lot of. So that was one of the things we had the good fortune to coach the Indiana All-Star game this year, and I asked all the guys. I said, I want you to impersonate your coach.
Right.
And there a couple of them snapped right into
they do
their
exactly
coaches,
right.
and so you could tell like their love and their appreciation, the respect of their coach. So I'm always like, I don't mind that at all. That when they're making fun of me, they know when they can do it, and when they can't. But you know, when they go in the locker room and they're cutting up on the coaches a little bit, you know, they're having a lot of fun playing basketball.
Yeah. So would you think you for the 10 years you've been working there, do you think you've made a cultural change? Do you think you've made some changes within the program and your high school coaching that?
I feel like the kids have been very willing to be coached hard,
Right.
And you know, so I think we're a tough team to play against.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're not going to give you anything, and so from that standpoint, like I think our guys really appreciate it. To answer your question, we've had new coaches come in, and their first reaction is, man, they work hard.
Yeah,
and the energy in the gym's really good, and that's you know, I think all coaches would like that. And so again, I have to give the kids that we've coached over the 10 years at Brownsburg a ton of credit for being willing to come in and understand that's the criteria.
Fight through every second of the game. They're
very willing to do that. So I appreciate, you know, when we get a new coach and what their observations are. That's one of the first things. The energy and effort in the gym is always really good.
Who was okay? I have two questions for you. Let's start out with
season off, right?
Let's start out with this one.
Okay.
Who were some of the best players that you played against this year? And then, what coaches put up the best fight? Or who are your favorite coaches to coach against?
Okay, so Flory at Kokomo was really developing and probably had a really good breakout game against us, unfortunately. But we lost to them in overtime. And
for the people that don't know, what happened? Like how exactly? Like did he had a breakout? Like
I can't say that. He had been doing really good, but he probably had 26 against us, and for anybody to get over 20 against us is
it's a really good game.
So
you had our number that game.
I think as we go down through there, I mean, like the Carmel guys are always really good at the chance to play against Pete Suter for 4 years and then coach him in the All-Star. He was unbelievable in the All-Stars. So, you know, just being a fan of him and the way he played and the way he went about his business, and to have the career he had at Carmel. Braden Smith was Mr. Basketball. And so, you know, to beat them at our place was really cool. I'm trying to think how many, because we played some All-Stars.
The white kid who won Gatorade.
Fletcher Lawyer. We did not play them. They played at our place. They played Carmel at our place. We played Davis from Warren Central at Kokomo's tournament.
Did you play?
He was really good. He had a ton of rebounds. Really? He was a beast. So.
Did you play Cathedral or did you play Cathedral last year?
Cathedral last summer.
Summer.
So they I thought we played them pretty well. And just they were rolling last summer.
Yeah.
Had a little hiccup in January, I think, and then they rolled it in the tournament. And then coaching those guys, again, Jackson Edwards. I mean, when you roll in for a week, you don't know guys, but I told him, I said, I'd get you guys anything you want from Dairy Queen if you get 10 rebounds. And Jackson had like 12 rebounds at halftime, so I bought him half a Dairy Queen. He ended up with like 19 rebounds against the junior All-Stars. So, but those guys were great, and just great winners. And when you talk about like they were very willing to do whatever it took to win a state championship.
Right.
They just, they're enjoyable to coach for a week. I can't imagine what they'd be like for a whole season. They were great.
That's awesome.
That is super. That's super cool. So, what? Who'd you guys play in the Indiana All-Star game?
So Indiana has had a history of playing Kentucky in a 2-game series. It goes back, I want to say 65, 70 years. I wish I knew that because I love the history. That's what you did as a kid. When I was a kid, you would go to the regional, semi-state, state, and then you come back in June and watch the Indiana All-Star game. I remember as Market Square at the time, Larry Bird had just won the MVP. They had just won the World Championship with the Celtics, and he's sitting in the suite at the top to watch his brother play the Indiana All-Star game. Eddie played as an Indiana All-Star in '86, and just being like with 17,000 people there, it's crazy. But we went to Owensboro and played the Kentucky All-Stars down there on Friday night, and then drove back, got in like at 1 in the morning, got back up on Saturday, and then played the Kentucky All-Stars at Southport High School Saturday night.
And you guys took that series, didn't you?
It's always a 2-game series with the boys and girls. They varied it over the years, including the junior all-stars. So post-COVID, kind of coming out of COVID, the juniors played 1 game at Bedford, I think. The Indiana junior all-stars played the Kentucky junior all-stars, boys and girls. And then the senior boys played the junior boys, or the senior girls played the junior girls, and the senior boys played the junior boys at Mount Vernon as a kind of a warm-up before we went and played Kentucky. So that's a great event. Like anything else, time that's not as well attended as it used to be, but it's still to be able to be a part of that and spend that week with those guys, and it's something I'll never forget. It was a really good experience, and I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Going back to, you said you played Kokomo, that Floor, Floor? I think he's like 3rd on ESPN Rivals now. So, yeah, I mean, he's pretty good. I mean, yeah.
He's real good.
Yeah.
He's real good.
But right now we're gonna head into halftime heat check. We're gonna shout some people out. We're gonna shout Brownsburg out. You got your Brownsburg gear on. I see that.
Absolutely.
Always repping Brownsburg. Kenny, what do you got on today?
Classic old shirt, shorts, and some Vans, man.
He's got the simple Vans.
To be comfortable.
I got a vintage Harley shirt on with some I got the Panda Highs on today. So. Yeah, make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at HeatandSoulPodCast, TikTok, and we'll see you guys in the next segment.
Backstory on that: Bradley hit like a crazy shot that was on ESPN that Coach Alford's first year, and then Cleo Bowie is his name. We're down, or I forget what the score was, but he like rises up from like 30 feet and buries a shot.
Junior, senior,
he was Steph Curry before.
Yeah, so he gets beat as a junior and then hits the shot as a senior.
Okay.
So we're sitting there and we don't get in the tournament. That disappointment. And they're like, well, your schedule wasn't tough enough. So Coach just beefs the schedule.
I got a question. So tell the people how that works, getting into the tournament, what it takes to get in, what type of qualifications did it take to even qualify for the tournament? Like you're saying, your schedule is beefed up.
So they've changed it a little bit, but it's usually, again, obviously, the more you win, and when they get down, they start looking at strength of schedule, and the Sagarin was the big calculator, like your record, your opponent's record, your opponent's record.
Yeah, okay.
And so they just said our schedule wasn't strong enough. We didn't play enough good teams.
Wow. Okay.
And so we overdid it. So we start the year, and Coach was good friends with John Calipari. So we go to the New Jersey Nets training camp, and you've got Rick Majerus there, and Keith Van Horn had gotten drafted by the Nets.
So that's sensational. So like he bring those kids out, man. That's something different, huh?
Yeah, it was great. So well, no, he took the coaches. So we just took the coaches.
Okay.
And we go out there and we're excited, like we're getting all this New Jersey Nets stuff for our offense, and we go play, and we just get killed. We go to Fairbanks, Alaska, and we play Clemson, and we have Clemson down the whole game and losing the last 3 minutes of the game, and then we get beat by Mississippi State. So we just you fly all the way to Alaska. It's a great experience. Great experience.
I wonder how that affected the players flying up, like doing all that.
That travel was brutal.
How is that flying around, hopping up? How is did that really affect them tremendously, or
I think it did. I think it's like if you've traveled like that, it's exhausting. Like people don't understand like those NBA guys trying to play back to backs or getting on the plane and flying
across state like that back. West
doing
Coast,
the West
East
Coast swing and stuff.
That's ridiculous.
So that year, so you just asked crazy. It's like we went from Alaska over Thanksgiving. We come back. We fly to Puerto Rico and play down there. We come back. You know, this was way before you're streaming all your games, so you took any chance you could to be on ESPN. So we fly to Long Beach and play Long Beach like on the late game on ESPN. You know, at that time, like ESPN had like the majority of the games. So we're playing like the midnight game on ESPN, and it's 70 degrees in Long Beach. We fly back into Des Moines for a conference game against Drake, and it's like minus 10. You know, and it's just
I get
it was just.
How's your engine feeling? Do you think that, I don't think the engine thought that was a very nice thing.
No, it was crazy, and that was all like a lot of times we flew. Like a private plane, so you get on, you fly to the game, and we would come back the same day, and a lot of that was commercial. So you're, you know, the odd hours or trying to get the best tickets to fly and do all that stuff. So that year, I think we were 4-10, 6-12, and then we ended up 16-16.
Wow!
I lost in the championship game of the Missouri Valley tournament, but it was just, you know, we probably overdid it.
Right.
And so that was like the crazy of, we're so close the year before, we probably overdo it. We take every advantage to go play. Like, and we, you know, like in Puerto Rico, we played great, but then we play Cincinnati in the championship game, and they're loaded. Bobby Brannon and all those guys, and they beat us by like 30 in the championship game.
Wow.
And so it was. That was what was nice about the Long Beach game. We get beat on ESPN by 30, and then we go win a game on ESPN. So it was. But at that time, you know, you took all those opportunities because you asked about the committee. Well, the committee's watching TV games.
Facts. Yeah.
So that was a rough year. And what was cool about that was we were young. We had graduated those guys, but we had most of the guys coming back. We had a senior that said, you know, I'm not doing that again. And it was really cool. It was just like he just said, you know what, kind of got him in the locker room. Rumor is he kind of threatened them all that he wasn't going to have a season like that. He wasn't going out. And coaches weren't involved. And you know, we most certainly had our ups and downs, but it kind of ends up again. We're in the Sweet 16. We're in New York with John Calipari and Danny Aiello, the old Italian actor, telling stories to the coaches and in some Italian restaurant before playing Duke in the Sweet 16.
Tell me, give me more depth about that story exactly.
So I Coach knew Coach Calipari from 5-star playing the NBA. You know, I think he had hired Ed Schilling, and Coach and Ed Schilling were great friends. And so when we had the opportunity to go out to the training camp, we went. John's been super nice. One of our players on that team has had some horses in the Kentucky Derby, so
that's kind of cool.
He's always been very gracious to Paul when Paul's down there for the Derby. But John's just a super guy. But anyhow, through Coach Alford, we have those interactions, and so we're in New York. We're playing in New Jersey, but we're staying in New York, and I think it's where the Nets have played with the Meadowlands, old when the Nets were So way back in 1999. So you know, so we're taking this big charter bus down this real narrow street to some restaurant, some really like a real cool Italian restaurant. They put the guys in one room, and they put the coaches in the other. And I think I'm saying it right. Danny Aiello was an actor, and he was friends with John, and he came in and he just entertained us for an hour. It was unbelievable. I just was like starstruck. I was like, this is so cool.
Who this is gonna take a little bit off topic, but who you're a coach and you coached for a very long time. Who are some of the most impactful coaches in basketball history. It can be high school wise. We can go Indiana, and then we can go collegiate, and then we can go. You can give us some of your professional coaches, like at the NBA top ranks.
Okay, so that have impacted me or just impacted
you?
Okay, so it's funny because the house I grew up in is kind of falling apart, and I just took a lot of my mom gave me all the books that I had, but I've got a Dean Smith book,
okay,
and then obviously Coach Knight and Coach Katie being the two big coaches through the 70s and 80s here in Indiana. I have a Woody Hayes football book that I I remember reading as a kid, like influenced me into coaching. Like I knew I was going to be a coach. Didn't know how I was going to do it, but I was going to be a coach based on just those guys of the time. I think the opportunity really that impacted me or kind of pushed me into the coach I am is those Missouri Valley coaches. Watched them. They all were either climbing the ladder or, in Eldon Miller's case, was doing a great job at Northern Iowa, but had coached at, and just how nice they were. I just always remember how gracious they were and took time and had the opportunity to work with Eldon's son, Ben Miller, at Missouri State. And, I think Charlie Spoonhour was another one that, he had, was way up here in my opinion. It's like I really always respected Charlie, but then how gracious he was to young coaches, and I always appreciate that or be thankful for the interactions I had with some of those coaches that really helped me along in my coaching career.
Yeah, so I mean, you've been in the coaching game for so long, 30 years plus, right? What advice could you give to some other coaches that are coming in, younger coaches that are in your shoes at one point?
That's a great question.
What type of advice would you give them?
Man, I think when I look on my coaching career, find ways to expand your experiences. We did it by working camp. Like a lot of guys way back then would go work camp. My first job was room and board and $2,500. And you took opportunities just to learn, and Steve Lavin, the guy that was at UCLA, he paid for his way, came out here and just stayed with Gene Katie at Purdue, and studied, and I think find ways to have those experiences. Ask a coach if you can come watch his practice.
Right.
We talk about it a lot, but I think those experiences gave me an opportunity in how I prepare my team. We talk about a lot of high school guys do or don't do scouting reports, or what your kids are exposed to, and so I think the greater your background, the more opportunities you have to relate to kids or give them exposures or nuggets or opportunities to be better. A lot of it's not basketball. It's just just finding ways. Like I'm pretty, like I like to challenge our guys, and I know I can be labeled as a guy that's hard to play for. At the same time, it's like when you're done, it's like those guys will come back, and it's like, man, there's just everything that has happened to me. I'm always like, that wasn't as hard as Mount Vernon, or that wasn't as hard as Brownsburg. And so I'm grateful for people who have pushed me or kind of put me in a position to have the confidence to challenge a young man and make him a better person, and maybe force that. I've got to fight through it or work through it and see the better things on the other side.
I have a question. You seem like a big film studier.
Yep.
Correct?
Yep.
And you say 20 to 25 minutes before practice.
Right.
What players, not coaches, but what players did you ever look at film and study players as a coach growing up to see what this player did, how he played defensively? Were there any certain players you ever studied growing up or in the coaching business, like they can be collegiate players, or you studied their game to implement that into practice, or a certain skill that you saw, like rebounding, defense, anything?
It's funny because kids now see so much on TV, and we were joking how old I am, but I remember watching James Blackman play in the Fort Wayne Semi-State, and I remember going outside trying to emulate the moves James Blackman made. And one of the first, as a high school kid, was Coach Alford's workout video. So it's kind of funny that I actually got to work with the guy whose video I watched and tried to do the Steve Alford workout back in the 80s. That's, you did the Steve Alford workout.
Let them know who that is for we're all young, let
Okay, so James Blackman and Steve Alford were Indiana All-Stars together. James played at Marion. They were both in the North Central Conference. Steve was Mr. Basketball that year, played at Newcastle. Okay. James went to Kentucky to play, and Steve went to IU to play. And then Coach Alford won the national championship with 87 in 1987 as a senior. It was Indiana's last national championship. I think both of them had, 2-3 year NBA stints, and then they both got into coaching. Coach Alford obviously went from Manchester to Southwest Missouri State, Iowa, New Mexico, UCLA, and now he's the head coach at Nevada. And James is back in Marion. He's the head coach at Marion High School. Has won 3 or 4 state championships now, and has had an unbelievable high school coaching career.
Right,
so for me to grow up watching those guys, emulating those guys, but there just wasn't as much, you just didn't see guys on TV as much back then. Right. But those would be my 2 biggest influencers from that standpoint. It's funny, I feel like kids watch a lot of NBA, and they're trying to do the step backs and some of those things, but then when you watch, and it's funny, you have so much data. Like when I talk to college coaches, synergy, everything a kid does is on synergy. They can watch his AAU games, they can watch his high school games, they have hours and hours, they can pick you apart. But we took the Kobe Bryant game where he scored a ton of points, and it was all on catch and shoot, one dribble, post moves, one dribble pull-ups. Right. But there were no step backs, there were no 6 dribble moves. How efficient Kobe was in his scoring that night.
They were simple.
They were simple, yes.
But they were so effective because everything he did it with a purpose and the mentality to score. And that's what made Kobe Kobe.
Yeah, right. Now I'm thinking about it, since the game has changed from the simple and how extra it got, how sassy it got. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about the transaction from how it's been, how the NBA, how the game just in general has changed over time?
Again, I think that's the nature of kids and coaches, and the ability to find a happy medium. Players got to play, players make plays, right? So, but understanding that you probably find your most success being simple.
Right.
So, this is a great acronym.
Would you say that in high school level? Would you just say simply just?
I think it's at every level.
All level.
I think our guys that have the opportunity to go visit college campuses, and you see, Chris Holtman doing jump stops and your shot fake, 2 dribbles, jump stop, and then that's it. How they go back to fundamental basketball. I think kids forget that. I'm not anti-trainer. I love trainers that help kids get better, but trainers that are trying to introduce such difficult moves for a young kid, you're going to have a progression. I think USA Hockey, and I hate to say it, that it's not a basketball, but USA Hockey has it where it's this is what you do in 6th grade, and this is what you do in 7th grade, and this should be your skill.
This is what's going to get you to win.
So they build it where basketball, we don't have that. It's whatever.
Yeah, you could be 14 doing some crazy stuff.
Because we have 14-year-olds out here dunking nowadays. I'm serious. I've been in game. I was at a camp. I think it was February, and this kid, man, he had 2 dunks in games, and you're like, these kids are just freak athletes. The workouts these kids do, the lifting. I mean, the skill sets that us at 14. I mean, we even talked about this with the Ritter coach and Coach Williams and Coach Bowling on the skill sets that kids have nowadays didn't even compare to what kids had 20 years ago.
Yeah, and it's funny you said that, mentality and mindset, how the players play, the individual playing, how an individual player could get so much off, just playing. How do you feel about AAU and high school basketball transactions? How do you feel about a player going to AAU then jumping over to high school? Do you think that affects the player's game and their opportunity to do whatever?
No, I think both are necessary. You know, and you know, so again, like what are you trying to do? You're trying to get better, right?
Right.
You know, so, you know, we talk about, like, you know, the thing that I would say, in whether it was my daughter playing club soccer or anything club, you're not practicing as much.
Right,
you know,
right.
like we're not scouting in AAU. I'm an assistant coach in AAU, and so, like, you know, it's like a kid hits 3 threes and it's like, hey, he's a shooter. We probably need to guard him. No, you play somebody the second time, or you play for a couple of years, you get to know the kids. But
it's not as technical as high school basketball.
Yeah. So, like, I think, you know, we're practicing 5 days a week and playing a game, you know, and we're maybe practicing once a week and then playing 5 games on a weekend. So it's sense. Just different.
Yeah,
and I think it's, you know, again, our kids, we try and tell them it's different. It's like, you know, we're going to reverse the ball 3 or 4 times. We're trying to get a great shot. You know, I talked to our guys this summer, and it's not a knock. I think there's times, but when, you know, you stat it, or the EYBL puts all the stats on, and the scoring efficiency, and it wasn't an EYBL game, so I'll say that right away. But like the OER, the offensive efficiency, was like 0.67. Right. You know, and it's like, we don't ever want ours below like 1.0. Right. Okay. So, like, it's just different, if that makes sense. And so probably not as efficient, but it's hard to say it should be when you don't practice or have repetitive.
You know, because instead of you're playing kids that you're not going to be running into every single day.
Yeah. Right. Instead of practicing 5 times a week, you're playing 5 games a week and practicing twice.
Yeah, exactly what he said.
So there's a big difference in AAU.
But I think it's valuable for our guys in terms of exposure, and I think we as a program do a pretty good job of getting our guys exposure, but when they go out on the road, the circuits, the different places where college coaches are going to see them, I think it's necessary that our guys go get out and play. It's a great experience for them.
Yeah. And it's also good over the summer to also just get. I mean, it's. I was watching this.
Go ahead and say it. It's good to get away from your high school coach.
Yeah.
I was watching this Kobe Bryant interview, actually. He did an interview, and he said in the summer, he said, I always worked on things I struggled with. He said, I would play these kids. He said he had hit list. He had a hit list in middle school. There were these rankings that came out. He said he was 57th, and he said he would go for the 56. As they went on the circuit, he would go, and he'd knock them all off, and eventually he'd be number 1. And I think that was a story. That was a great story, just to hear him talk about his hit list and what he would do to get better, because he'd play these kids, and he's like, they take him for granted, like he's not as big as us, he's not as athletic, so he always had to figure out what their weaknesses were, and he played them to their weaknesses.
Yeah, no, those are special players that can do that self-evaluation and figure out their own strengths, and then the strengths and weaknesses of their opponents. You know, again, that's why you tell Kobe stories, because he was special that way.
It was. We have something coming out on this. You guys probably won't. It'll probably be up by the time you guys see this video, but Thursday. So tune into that. Make sure you guys go watch that because we have about 5 minutes worth of Kobe stories, and they're phenomenal Kobe stories. Wouldn't you agree, Kenny?
Oh, yes, of course.
Very much so.
So, what places did you like to play at when you were doing any coaching or anything? Where are some of the top 3 spots? Maybe two spots, at least.
Honestly, I like the old historic gyms. Mm-hmm. So we've played, Indianapolis Tech, Manual. You talked about Coach Bowling.
Yeah, Coach Bowling. Yep.
You know, we played at Addicts. I love, going to Frankfurt, like the old historic gyms.
Yeah. What do you think about the Wigwam maybe opening up back again?
We played at the Wigwam when I was at Mount Vernon. So the opportunity, we played at Muncie, the old field house, played at Newcastle. So to play in some of those historic gyms before they left the conference, we got to play at Lafayette Jeff. So some of those places, that when you talk about the history of Indiana high school basketball, I don't know that there was really any college place that I thought was most of the places we would play would be at a venue. Mm-hmm. Like if you played in Cincinnati at Puerto Rico, so we didn't get to play at Cincinnati. We played Indiana. We played at Market Square during the Hoosier Classic or whatever. So, we played Kansas, but we played them in Kansas City.
Right.
So I missed out on being able to play in some of those home venues that are kind of special places or places you see on TV.
What makes Brownsburg a special place to play basketball? What would you say?
I think that, again, it's a place that's had a really good basketball history. When you go through the history of Brownsburg and the old gym, in the days of Coach Bruins, and just the excitement around Brownsburg basketball, obviously through the 2000s and winning the state championship with Gordon and Julian Mabunga. Two guys are still playing professionally.
Mabunga overseas, and he's killing it. His sister's really good too. His sister's very good.
They've done really well. And then Jordash, who played for me, is playing over there with Julian now in Japan. So, to have that, Brownsburg, again through the early 2000s, between the basketball and the baseball, having those guys playing professionally makes it exciting for some of these kids, and then for us to have 3 Indiana All-Stars during my time, again, there's an excitement there. Excitement there. And I always said this with Coach Alford at Newcastle, like each kind of group saw somebody they wanted to emulate, and I feel like we've been able to have that. We've had some really neat kids to come through Brownsburg, that there's always an elementary or a middle school kid that's looking at a high school guy that's going somewhere.
Yeah. I like that.
No, that's super dope. I mean, Brownsburg definitely, and there's a huge. You guys have Brownsburg has a huge school system, so you have a ton of kids to pull from, just like a Carmel almost.
Yep.
I'm not comparing Brownsburg to Carmel, but I mean, big school districts have a lot of kids to choose from. So I mean that helps Brownsburg with their success.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Right now we're gonna go into we call this like the quick fire round, something like that. So I got a couple questions for you.
Yep.
Michael Jackson or Prince? This is a question we ask every podcast. Michael Jackson or Prince?
I think my wife would be mad if I didn't say Prince.
Okay. All right. See, Dad's getting excited back there. I almost wore a Prince shirt tonight. I changed it. I almost wore a Prince shirt.
Oh, the sad thing though, when he passed away, and some kid goes, "Who's Prince?" And,
wow.
My sister-in-law's like, "Did you flunk him?" So,
What do you teach? What do you teach in school?
I teach math, geometry.
Okay.
So I've taught geometry for 16, 17 years.
Okay.
So I can tutor you in your math.
All right, Kenny, I think we know who you're taking.
Yeah, definitely MJ.
Yeah, he's definitely taking Michael Jackson. We already know that. I'm kind of in between right now. I'm not too sure. I'm still leaning towards MJ. I'm about 60-40 right now.
Make a decision.
60-40. I'm gonna go MJ today. I might change my mind up. I might listen to a little bit of Prince next week. Or this week, so we might change it up next Tuesday.
That works. That's how that works.
He's walking home.
That's how that works. One week you're with somebody, next week you ain't.
Who's your GOAT?
Wow.
Who's your GOAT?
I have to say, and nobody's like Larry. I grew up watching Larry Bird.
Okay.
Right? I mean,
Okay. That's respectable.
it would be Jordan.
Okay.
If you're saying Jordan over LeBron, I'm saying Jordan.
Okay.
Right? But Larry, for a guy from Indiana, Larry going to Indiana State, you're talking about the game against Magic in '79, and then the '80s. You can't beat Larry and Magic.
He dominated. I mean, he dominated, man. He was very. I mean, he was before his time, almost like a Pete Maravich. He was before his time with the way some of the shots he took, even the pass fakes he used. I mean, his game was so developed. I mean, I think if he wouldn't have had that back injury, he could have done a lot more in the league.
He'd played through the '90s.
Yeah.
The early '90s.
Yeah. Who are you listening to? Like, what artists do you like to listen to, music-wise?
Anything country. Saw Kenny Chesney in Busch Stadium. It was awesome. Does a great job. Probably as I've gotten older, enjoying some Jimmy Buffett. It's my relaxing music. I'm not a big music person. I did enjoy Kenny in concert. Kenny Chesney in concert was a must see. It's a good one.
All right, Kenny, have you switched your playlist up at all?
Still
on that J. Cole stuff?
I mean, no. I listen to new music every week. I'm listening to Beyonce right now. Her project.
Beyonce, okay.
Listen to some Brand. Listen to Whatever's new at the time.
I really haven't switched. I haven't really switched anything up. I had an argument today about who's the best feature artist.
Who the best feature artist?
Who the best feature artist is right now? It's Lil Baby. He's the best feature artist right now. Tell me I'm wrong. Past 2 years. Am I wrong?
This year?
Look, no. Past 2 years, he is the best feature. Tell me I'm wrong. This man works with music. He works with music. Tell me I'm wrong.
This year, no, though. This year, no.
Who's the best feature artist? See, look, exactly.
It's definitely not him.
Then who is it? Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
See. So that makes Baby. Baby's on top.
Probably say like Future or something.
Future?
Yeah, he dropped a project this year.
I said feature artist. I said feature artist.
Yeah, feature. Yeah, artist. Same feature.
I got a question from behind the scenes, right? So
BK had them with it.
Coach that we talk to, they always say they don't really watch the pros like that. Like the high school coaches we talk to, they say they watch high school and they watch college. I just want to know, like, why is that? Is it like they just?
That's a great question. So we all have your groups that you study and things like that. And then was it JJ Redick came out with, kind of, and whether you like JJ or not, I thought it was interesting that he called out the offensive efficiencies.
Yeah.
And I do think my first response to your question would be the spacing and the rules is set up different in the NBA. So, like, some of the things I see I really like, and then when you put it in, you don't get the same space that you would get in an NBA game. Either the overall talent doesn't allow it, like we're going to help off of somebody, or the rules are set up, or the spacing's not there.
Yeah.
So, like, if I'm going to probably watch somebody to emulate or steal from, it's going to be a high school or college program.
Yeah.
I love watching the NBA. If you can't appreciate how good those guys are or what they're doing, I'm going to say you don't understand basketball. But I think sometimes it's really hard to translate because of the rules and the spacing.
I have one last question. So you said JJ Redick, right? He's got a podcast. You see him in the media nowadays. You have CJ McCollum in the media. What do you think about these athletes in the media? Do you think it's good for the game? Do you mind it?
I mean, again, I like listening to JJ, but then I don't like that he calls out like Kuzi and those guys. It's like, come on now, those guys are like, there's always somebody who made the game, better, and with Bill Russell passing away, how stinking good he was, and that era of basketball. And that's a guy I didn't even mention, like Clyde Lovellette went to Kansas and played, was right after Wilt and those guys. And that era of basketball was unbelievable. And for me to get to know Clyde at Manchester and hear all his stories about that era, or, so I'm disappointed when JJ would call somebody out like that. But at the same time, like, he's a good listen. Like, he has some good things.
I agree.
And so, like, again, I like you guys. Like, we do this to hopefully entertain somebody, or somebody appreciates a story. And so, like, again, JJ played at Duke. He played in the NBA. He's got a ton of good stories. His perspective.
His IQ
is off the charts.
Yeah.
Charts. Yep. Not any professional athlete, but as a professional athlete, his IQ is off the charts. And what the stories he has, the knowledge he has on the game is just it's completely different from anything I've ever seen. But I want to give a big thank you to you for coming out tonight.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. I really did enjoy you coming out. I mean, it was a phenomenal pleasure talking to you, and I hope to talk to you again sometime soon.
I enjoyed it. Had a great time. And just a big shout out to Brownsburg, all right?
Yeah, Brownsburg basketball. Go follow them on all the social medias. Go follow them on Twitter. BHS Hoops? Bberg Hoops?
Yep.
And then Brownsburg Athletics. Make sure to go hit them up on Instagram. Keep
Rest
up with
in peace,
them.
Bill Russell. Legend just died not too long ago.
Yep.
So rest in peace to him.
Yep. So shout out Kenny. It's Kenny2424. We got to get his Instagram up and popping. Go follow B4Oops on Instagram. Get his Instagram. Go follow him. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Heat and Soul Podcast. Thank you for coming out tonight. I really do appreciate it. And Heat and Soul Podcast, we're out.